Welcome to Conversate, our podcast where we engage in conversation. On this week's episode, we're talking about suffering, but suffering as Christian people in this world, and our response as Christian people. So, we have conversations about, like, should we rise up, take up arms, try to overthrow the government? Do we just sit around, do nothing? That's kind of the impetus of a lot of the conversation here today. We hope it's helpful for you and that you'll find something inspiring that will motivate you to start another conversation about Jesus with somebody else. As always, we hope you enjoy it. All right, buddy. Good morning.
Hey, howdy.
Howdy ho.
Oh man, you just flashed Tim the Toolman Taylor.
We got I have a fence in my backyard, and it's a wooden fence, and we have a neighbor that he lives downhill from us. It's a little weird because I can see into like their entire backyard. Like They have a big wooden fence, and I don't think they can see up into our yard, but we can see down into theirs.
Sure. They can only see floating heads.
Probably. Yeah. And so I told Abby that I should get a Wilson hat and just hidey ho down to neighbor Chad.
You should. That'd be fantastic. Would he have grown up, do you think, in the same sort of timing that would avail him to that?
He's a little younger, but I have to go through a little bit of woods to get to their backyard. And I wonder if they put the fence up because of me, because when they were moving in and they were doing some stuff in their backyard, and I wanted to be a friendly neighbor, so I walked through the woods and then popped out of the little tree line into their backyard, and I was like, "Hey, welcome into their backyard." I think they're a little taken aback.
Yeah, sure. Where are they moving from?
I don't know.
I mean, because that's
after I did that, they kind of haven't talked to me too much.
I had neighbors. This is when we first moved up here, and we were renting in Houghton, and they were our neighbors to the south, and I think that the fence was already there. But like we would go and meet and talk at the fence, and on occasion if we were both outside, and but I asked him about like moving up here, and that was part of the draw. Was like, yeah, so I could be away from people. Message received,
or was it?
So, yeah.
I hear you loud and clear, but you moved in here next to me.
So like, anyways, what else you doing today? Yeah.
It's like when you sit down by somebody on an airplane and they work on putting their headphones on, and you just see how long you can keep them from putting those headphones on, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I just read something that had to do with airline conversations, and it might have been like an opinion piece, like do you or do you not, like interact. But yeah, for me, the answer is yes. Yes, I do.
Oh man.
It's been a while though. Haven't been on a plane in a while.
Oh, well. They're out there flying around.
Yeah, one day.
Well, what else should we talk about? Jesus?
Yeah.
Hope?
Yeah. That'd be good.
Okay.
Peter talked about some of that stuff.
We could talk about your pink pants.
Could. You can hardly see them, scarcely see them in the video of this episode, but you can. They're there. They're on. It's not a classy border we're putting on there.
Nah. Yeah, we're cruising through First Peter as we're doing this sermon series on living hope, and yeah, man, this concept of having hope, particularly in the midst of a difficult life and the sufferings of this life, it's so. I don't know. It's so necessary to have hope in something. Without it, man, it just I don't know what we've got. Despair, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, this was part of the point of sermon on Sunday, was like the reality, like that you are going to suffer. There is going to be difficulty. There is going to be hardship. There's going to be stuff that's. I mean, even to flatten it out in the most, non-sensational way, there's going to be things that annoy you, There's a band that says, never say nothing ever came from a gnat. And that's their whole point, is that a gnat can annoy you. Even that little small guy can make you frustrated. And there's actually a whole episode of a show that's all about kind of illicit behavior, in fact. But one of the episodes centers around a fly that's bothering the main character as he attempts to produce substances that are not useful for humanity.
Don't get our podcast banned.
Well,
but
I
do know what.
I'm trying to hit that algorithm. Trying to hit the algorithm. Bring in some more viewers.
I wonder if you mentioned the substance that
or the show. Yeah. Well, anyways, but yeah. So the point is, like, you're gonna interact with it. Like, those things are going to hit you, and so then the question becomes, okay, what happens when they do? Right? How do you move through it? And so, like you were just saying, hope is a real part of that. Hope gives you one particular way of moving through those kinds of hardships, but not the only way. There are other alternatives. Despair is one that you just mentioned. Another would be apathy. And I think that's a pretty common one in our society, like our culture.
I think you can only be apathetic if like your basic needs in life are being covered. I feel like if you're in a
hard to be apathetic about, like,
life and death
bombs,
situation,
blowing up around you, for sure. But that's not our situation.
I know,
right?
So I think apathy is
it's a modern,
a luxury.
Well, I would say yes and no. The only reason I would say no is I don't know if this word would make, like, I don't know if the term apathy actually applies well, but I think it does to the Stoic philosophers. So Stoicism was really popular, in ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And one of the main tenets behind Stoicism is this idea that, like, in the morning when you're saying goodbye to your son, you tell yourself they're going to die someday, so don't get too attached. And that is a movement in the direction of apathy, not hate. It's not that you hate your child. It's that you're kind of killing off the parts of you that would be connected and therefore care.
Yeah, I suppose, because, pathos, right, is the...
yes,
caring, that's the
appeal to emotionality,
emotions. And then in Greek, if you put an A in front of the word, it means it negates it. So apathy or apathos would be not
exactly,
but
no emotion.
Yeah, no emotion.
Lack of emotion.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't think it's. I do think you're right. Well, this is the interesting thing. Like we're saying, it's. It maybe more readily applies to a situation where you don't have bombs dropping around you. But like the ancient Greeks, it's not like their lives were remiss of, like, warfare or potential threats, on their life, kind of a thing. So like that philosophy thrived because I think it's actually an effective, like, if you want to move through difficulty, that's a pretty effective way.
Oh, I was just listening to... I was listening to a podcast. It's the Sean Ryan show. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he interviews lots of people. And he was interviewing a former Navy SEAL, and they were talking about like just how they compartmentalize everything. The interviewer asked the guy, like, "Do you remember your first kill?" And he basically goes, "Oh, I don't really want to talk about that," and I haven't really ever thought about it. It's just, just doing the job, compartmentalize that, He even mentioned how he got divorced, but just like every Navy SEAL does, compartmentalize that, So very much people do that sort of thing,
just detach.
Yeah.
Yep. Because it's effective because, the thing that you're detaching from is something that's bringing or causing you pain. I mean, in general, humans, all of us, we're striving to live lives, or we desire to live lives that are happy. There's I forget, there's some philosopher that talks about that's like kind of the ultimate aim of humanity. Augustine might even affirm that, actually.
Happiness?
I think that's found in his Confessions, if I'm not mistaken. It's just kind of this just basic premise. Like, if you look around at the world, like, what drives, decision making and, what you choose to do with your existence. Like, that seems like a pretty clear thing. People don't run into things that make them unhappy. People don't run into things that are going to disappoint them. They're not like, hey, I know how to have a really lousy time. Oh, let's do it, guys. You know what I mean? Oftentimes we end up there, but not because we said that's what we're going to set out to do, but because we had a false idea of what would bring us happiness, right? But so people are trying to orient themselves into that which will bring them joy, delight, happiness, etc. And so, if you have things coming your way that aren't those things, if you're in the middle of things that aren't that, one effective way to go through it is just to detach yourself. But what's striking though about the Christian narrative as Christians, I mean, striking could also be convicting potentially, depending on your life story and where you're at, and maybe the ways that even we have moved through certain things of our own lives and histories. Christianity doesn't push you that direction. Jesus, like if you look at the person of Jesus, if you watch how he interacts in the Gospels, you will not see him detaching himself.
Well, I mean, and that's, I think 1 Peter 3 talks about that. I mean, he doesn't detach, he suffers, you know?
Yeah, he uses that word sympathy. Finally, brothers, he lists, I think, 5 things, but one of them is be sympathetic. That word means to suffer together. This is a good picture, a word picture for what Jesus, his whole life was suffering together with humanity. Yep. Yeah. In some ways, I'm just thinking of, there's some examples too where Jesus doesn't even, he kind of like doesn't let people stay detached or be detached. I think of the woman who comes in, receives healing. This woman who's had this loss of blood her whole life, and she comes in, she touches the fringes of Jesus' robes, and she would have preferred that moment to sort of be hidden, you know? Like she didn't want it to be something that was recognized. And Jesus makes a point of basically calling out, like, someone touched me, and I want to look you in the eyes. Like I want to be attached to you in this, in your movement through healing. Because think about it, for her, she's healed, but it's not as though it just happens magically. Power drains out of Jesus. She's healed as Jesus experiences the woundedness or the corruption of what her body was going through. And so, but Jesus doesn't allow it to remain like a detached experience. He wants to see who it is and bless them.
I mean, that's consistent with who he is in his character. I mean, Jesus is Emmanuel, right? God with us. I mean, that's
not just in the happy times.
Yeah.
The bright times.
I mean, the beginning of Matthew's gospel, the angel says, you'll call him Emmanuel. Yeah. He'll be God, which means God with us.
Yep.
At the end of Matthew's gospel, Jesus says, after giving the Great Commission, it says, I'll be with you always to the very end of the age. I mean, all throughout his ministry, he's calling people to follow him, to be with him. Right. So, yeah, he's a near God, a with us God, and he still is to this day. And that's what Peter's talking about with this living hope, right? Through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we have a living hope. And he's still present with us to this day as we suffer. There's some interesting conversations I've been having regarding this topic, though, too, of like, so Peter's audience, they're humans like us that suffer just as a result of the brokenness in this world. So you would imagine that Peter's audience, some of those people are getting sick, losing their jobs, having relationships that aren't going well.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, they are suffering persecution for their faith in Jesus Christ on account of kind of a hostile government.
Right.
So there's some conversations that are helpful to have as well, and I think you kind of got there in the sermon you preached a bit also, in regards to, is our, if where is the line? If I don't think there is a defined line. I think it gets kind of muddy, but if a government is acting contrary to God's word or God's will, and demanding that its citizens do the same thing, or will take your life, is there a place to try to change that government to align more with the will of God? And if so, how do you do that? Is it like passive non-compliance, where you just say no and in time hope that changes their mind because it's not working for them to force you? Is there a time or a place or a certain kind of role within society that is called to rise up, I guess, and force change? Is it our job to just be passive and go along with whatever they say? If because Peter says submit to authority, even to the emperor. So it's helpful to maybe if we want to sort this out a little bit and talk about it, because I think people wonder, what is the role of the Christian in that relationship with, say, a non-Christian hostile authority figure. So
I mean, I'll give you kind of a curious modern example. I don't know that this person's necessarily walking in the perfect path of what we would come to try and describe here, but it's an interesting example nonetheless. Bruce Springsteen is on tour, and I don't know that much about Bruce Springsteen, but whoever was writing this article about him knew a lot about Bruce. And something that's unique about their tour right now is that it's actively political. So like the concert, you go and you're going to this concert, but you're not just going to get music. Like, you are going to get a very clear and direct statement from Bruce and the band. And that's nothing new for Springsteen. Like, if you know any of one of his most famous songs is Born in the USA. If you listen to the lyrics of Born in the USA, you'll figure out pretty quickly where he stood on a particular political issue of the timing in which that song came out. And so anyways, so he's got this position. He's making statements and basically calling to account for what he, sees to be the right or just thing to do. And they played a show the day after the shooting was it in D.C.? There was the
White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And same show, same kind of agenda, right? They didn't hold back on that. But during that same show, he also offered a prayer for all of the people who were at that event, because he said during that show in particular, and I'm not sure if it's come up in other ones, basically, we need to be able to call out and to speak to that which we sense is just or right or whatever, but we cannot resort to political violence. And so that's an interesting example. Like, right there, you have someone who's holding a certain kind of attention. And I would say that tension is in some ways comparable. It's in some ways comparable to what we see, because if we're looking for kind of a map for ourselves in terms of how do we respond as Christian people, I think one of the first places you go to is the book of Acts, because you see there the early Christians, Peter himself, right? Peter, who's telling us in his letter, submit to authority, but who he himself will say, we must obey God rather than men, right? So Peter will say both of those statements. Okay, so clearly here we've got not a simple go this way, and that's just it. We've got sort of there's a bit of a balance here, and we got to sort this out. But through the rest of the book of Acts, you'll see Christians standing before governments.
Well, and then in the earliest church as well, all the martyrs before the Roman Empire became a Christian empire. All the people that were martyred, and they went joyfully and were martyred. But then there's also there's interesting stories in history though too of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a German Lutheran pastor during World War II and the rise of the Nazis, and he fled to England for a while and then went back, and then he even got to the place theologically where he was involved in assassination attempts on Hitler, and kind of reasons his way there theologically, and I'm not throwing him up as Jesus or the Savior. I'm just saying that somebody has been down that path as well.
Right.
And, you know, he ended up being hung, you know, for this. His life was taken. And
I think 2 weeks before the camp that he was, you know, the concentration camp that he was housed in, 2 weeks before it was freed, if I remember right.
And so there are situations, you know, and but I've heard lots of these kinds of debates too, you know, about. Yeah, I guess, you know, whether you take, I guess, more of a pacifist route or I don't know if there's a direct opposite of pacifism. I want to say aggression, but I don't
activism.
know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, because like, what do you mean by pacifist?
Like no war at all costs.
But like, are you saying be a pacifist and actively try and shift your culture and government to follow your ideology? I
think there are some people that's what they would desire, right? That basically, you know, that there would never be any war.
That's a nice ideal.
I know, right? And so that we'd just pull back and withdraw and not engage in anything.
Well, let's do. Go ahead.
And so, because I at a governmental level, that's one thing. I think there's a smaller level that maybe I don't know that the answer is any necessarily clearer, but maybe a little more easily understandable. But like your own household,
sure.
Like, say somebody breaks into your own home and wants to take your life or
the life of your family.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it good and right or necessary? What should I do? Do I fight back, kill them, take their life because they were going to take mine?
Right.
Arm up, or do I take the route of, well, take my life and let it be, consecrated, Lord, to thee, if this is how I'm going to go, this is how I'm going to go. And I've heard heated debates on this thing. I don't know, heated, but theological debates.
That happens.
Yeah, but theological debates where you can kind of, I think you can kind of come down on either side of the thing. I think there's some truth in the middle, and there's somewhere that God has given you your wisdom and diligence to know the situation and to respond accordingly. So, like, I don't personally think it's a black or a white done deal.
I mean, I do think we have, so far as I understand it, there's somewhat of a Lutheran distinctive on this particular piece, though. So, like, to go with the household piece, the theology that I've heard applied that makes sense to me. We hear about it a lot, right? Which would be Luther's sort of focus on love of neighbor, right? So he goes to love of neighbor for all sorts of things. You know, for instance, like if you want to be a good Christian, like if you want to be a pious Christian, if you want to engage in the love of God, what do? You love your neighbor, right? You go do good deeds for them, not for God. You do it because they need it, not because God needs it. And so Luther comes to, back to love of neighbor a lot. And it's one of the issues he takes up with like the monks and the monasteries of his time that seem to be like detaching themselves from the world. So far as I understand it, he also used that same logic when it came to these kinds of pieces from Jesus, So Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount does, like, there's a section that I think the heading, like in your Bible in italics, which, remember, those are not divinely inspired. They were put in there later
by a publisher.
That's right. But I think there's a section that, like, this the heading would be something about non-retaliation, and Jesus says, like, basically, if someone takes your tunic, right, give him your coat also, and if someone does this, you bless them even more, right? This whole bless and do not curse. And so Luther interacts with it, but what he says is that actually is the dictum for you as the individual Christian. So, like, I have to be careful here. Well, let's go to turn the other cheek, right? Because that verse gets evoked a lot in these kinds of conversations. And so it's this idea that, Jesus said to turn the other cheek. Okay, so what does that mean? Like, if I'm in an abusive relationship, I just take it,
You're right.
and take it and take it and take it. And part of the image of turning the other cheek, it's not about utter silence when you're turning that other cheek. So turn the other cheek means, all right, the slap came across, and now I'm bringing my face back to the person who just did that to me, and I'm offering the other side. What that means, it's not an invitation so much for an abuse as it is a recognition of the abuse that has occurred. So this is something that we declare. When there's abuse, when there's injustice, when there's oppression, the Christian is called to speak out against it. And that's something you can see. But again, it's for love of neighbor, right? Mm-hmm. But you could apply that piece to yourself, I think, as well. Turn the other cheek does not mean you just lay down and get beat up. But it does say there's a different response than the one you just received. Mm-hmm. So it's non-retaliation in the sense that it's not the same response, but it doesn't mean a unresponsiveness. Mm-hmm. So it's I'm going to call out if I'm being abused, and I'm going to make that clear. And this is kind of the way it goes, so far as I can tell, governmentally, for the Christian to the government. It's not about taking up arms and overthrowing a government. I don't think we really have a scriptural basis to do that. And I think even our history would work against that, so far as I can tell. But I know, not everyone would probably be. That's what you're saying. You've heard there's different camps here. But I don't know that you can find a basis for that biblically. But you can speak out, and you can call out the injustice. You can call it for what it is.
Well, that's what, yeah, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego in exile, they just say no. Mm-hmm. The law of the land, and they just stand up against it and say no.
Yeah, they don't assassinate Nebuchadnezzar.
No, but they try to assassinate them, and God protects them miraculously,
right?
And ends up blessing the whole situation.
Yeah, which again isn't even a promise that God will do that, because the three guys are we believe, in our God, but He doesn't even have to do anything for us right now. We might die right here, but whatever, we're going to do it anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But yeah,
go ahead.
But I think there are. Yeah, there's the situation. I just try to think about this as a husband and father. To the individual Christian, I can see if it's only my life being threatened, my life being taken.
Yep.
Being comfortable saying, all right, take it, Lord. Now I know that my absence from this world has an effect on my wife and children,
right.
Absolutely, and other people.
Yep.
But if the life of my wife or children are being threatened in my vocation,
yes,
as husband and father,
correct,
I believe I have a responsibility to tend to them and care for them as father and husband, and that care is a responsibility to do everything in my power to sustain their life for Christian flourishing,
And that's to bring it back to Luther, exactly it. So you do it for love of neighbor, for the love of your wife and your children. You can extend it though and apply it to you're at the school and there's the bully picking on this kid. As far as Luther's thinking on this theology goes, it would say, yes, get in there and get that bully off that weak and defenseless kid.
But the bully is also my neighbor, and it's not in his good to be a bully.
Correct.
So we are serving both of them by stopping
what is not right or just or good. And by doing that, this is actually, if you've never seen the movie Pay It Forward, earmuffs, because a spoiler alert. But that's,
I thought you were going to say a bad word.
No, I'm just going to tell you the ending of Pay It Forward. But that's what happens. So that whole movie is about basically blessing other people. It's a really amazing kind of picture of a sense of Christianity, which is to be salt and light, to preserve and do good for those around you, and to be a blessing. The Abrahamic covenant, and but the kid does it, and he does push the bully off of this person who's getting beat up or whatever, and he dies. He gets knifed. So he loses his life. But there's no better picture for who Christ is than to do that, than to put yourself in danger for the sake of love of neighbor. Mm-hmm. But see, now that's very different, to bring it back to the first conversation, how do we engage in our society, in our government, right? That's very different than I'm personally frustrated or annoyed, or I think differently, and now I'm going to lambast my leaders because I think what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
That's very different than being motivated by the love of your neighbor and to actively do something to help your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, and like so many of the biblical principles and the things that Jesus is calling us to, it is a matter of, it is a heart issue. Mm-hmm. You know, now if you're not familiar with the Word of God, you know, if you just say like, follow your heart, your heart's going to mislead you. So you're not follow your own heart. You follow the heart of God,
right,
who reveals himself to you most fully at the cross of Jesus Christ. So your heart needs to be aligned with the heart of Jesus. And that's what God is after, you know, in all of these equations. And so and Peter is clear to classify some of these things. I mean, some of these characteristics, these heart things, you know,
sure,
not malice or slander, envy or deceit or hypocrisy, but instead
brotherly love and sympathy and unity of mind, and humble in mind. Keep that baby tucked away. Yeah. Humility, you know, covering all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those are all heart classification things, right? So you can kind of check your heart.
Right.
Because those are the very heart of Jesus. And that's where Peter goes on to describe who Jesus is. He doesn't just say, do these things, but then in light of the one who actually is these things.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you read the end of 1 Peter chapter 3 to see how Jesus suffers. Even it's at the end of 1 Peter 2 as well. I think that Peter is like just really clearly interweaving, not even directly quoting, but interweaving the suffering servant from the book of Isaiah. And he's just like he's just basically giving that message that you know, Jesus came as the suffering servant to bear our sin, and
this is who he is, and it's who God is building us to be as a body of believers. Right?
These living stones, right? Built up on him, the cornerstone that was rejected, right?
And who was offensive. He was the rock of offense. But it's not as though Jesus like went out of his way to be offensive, and that's maybe like the more in our current, the status of our lives right now. There's a lot of people who are just trying to be offensive. I mean, just to be frank, and it's not hard to just be offensive. Don't get sucked into that. That's a cultural thing. That's not a God thing. You don't have to seek out being offensive. If you truly follow the way of Jesus, you will find yourself ending up being offensive to some people.
Yeah.
It's kind of inevitable. Yeah. Like, this is really what Jesus is telling again in the Sermon on the Mount.
Even when you're being what you think is like nice and humble and Christ-like.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're doing that, you know, calling out a truth or something of righteousness or just, right? Like, if you're doing that, well, hypothetically, you're in a situation where someone's infracting that, and people don't want to hear that. Yeah. That's what makes them angry at you. Yeah. But that's Peter's whole point in this section 2 of Scripture is like call it out in gentleness and respect.
Yeah.
And when you kind of get, you know, slandered, they run you through the mud. Like, it ends up at the end of the day, like they're the ones who are kind of shamed for the way they responded because all you were doing was seeking to walk in integrity. Mm-hmm.
But Peter is clear, and the Psalms do this too, which is basically like point out the reality that if you do this and you live with gentleness, because that's what he says in this section too, right? Yep. Always be ready to give a reason for the hope that is yours in Jesus Christ, but do it with gentleness and respect. Yeah. And when you do, I forget the exact quote, but it's basically like it will be evident that they're fools. You know, that's kind of the point. Like, their foolishness will come to the surface, and and so like,
my buddy's got a saying: truth takes time. It's like, in the moment, you might be the one who's sort of like shouldering the shame, you know, of this person who's saying whatever about you. But see, the thing about Jesus is it makes it so easy to shoulder the shame, because you're like, wait a minute, who are you? Like, Jesus is the one who tells me who I am. Mm-hmm. So it's like I can offload it on Jesus, and so I can joyfully endure this hardship, right? But I like that idea of truth takes time. Like, in the moment, things might look one way, but just give it a little time and keep walking that road. And in time, the truth always comes to bear. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can look at many examples in history of people who have done that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Bonhoeffer looked like a, Benedict Arnold to his people. He was a German guy,
Yeah.
So he is actively working against the government, of his day. And if you believe that power is sort of the thing that matters at the end of the day, when Germany was powerful militarily under, Adolf Hitler, you would have looked like Bonhoeffer was some crazy guy doing a foolish thing and tough nuggets, right? We look at him today and say, kind of equivocally across the board, Christian or not, people are going to look at him and say, hero.
Mm-hmm.
Truth takes time.
Yeah. Well, good. I think we can wrap it.
Yeah. I don't know. At this point, you probably are still like, okay, so what do I do? Basic thing. Love God, love neighbor. You can't go wrong.
There you go. That's what Jesus said to do. So,
that's right.
Yeah, love God, love neighbor.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Hey, man.
Peace.
See ya.